Hello, I'm Jesse Waters along with Morgan Ortagus, Juan Williams, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Fox News alert. Moments ago, Trump addressing the illegal immigration crisis facing our country. The president taking aim at Democrats and blaming them for the laws that enable the problem.
We will not allow our generosity to be abused by those who would break our laws, defy our rules, violate our borders, break into our country illegally. We won't allow it. The laws are so bad. They're not archaic. They're incompetent. It's not that they're old. They're just bad. And we can't get any Democrat votes to change them. It's only the Republicans that are in unison. They want to change them.
The hot button issue the last couple of weeks has been the migrant caravan headed towards the United States. Trump once again vowing to stop it.
At this very moment, large, well-organized caravans of migrants are marching toward our southern border. Some people call it an invasion. It's like an invasion. These are tough people in many cases. A lot of young men, strong men, and a lot of men that maybe we don't want in our country. But again, we'll find that out through the legal process. But these illegal caravans will not be allowed into the United States. And they should turn back now because they're wasting their time. They should apply to come into our country. We want them to come into our country.
The president also saying he'll crack down on meritless claims for asylum.
My administration is finalizing a plan to end the rampant abuse of our asylum system. Under this plan, the illegal aliens will no longer get a free pass into our country by lodging meritless claims in seeking asylum. Instead, migrants seeking asylum will have to present themselves lawfully at a port of entry. So they're going to have to lawfully present themselves at a port of entry.
Okay, Juan, two issues here. Because of the laws in this country, they treat people from Central America different than they treat people from Canada or Mexico. So if you come with a child and you're from a Central American country and you cross the border, and if you say you're fleeing violence, they will immediately accept you into this country and release you into this country because of the laws. Do you think that the system is being gamed by people who, there's lawyers down there telling them what to say right before they cross? Would you make any changes to the illegal immigration problem at all?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to make a change with regard to the asylum rules, I guess that's up to us as the American people, and we can do that at any time.
The Democrats can help with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Republicans who have failed in the 2 years they've been there with Trump. But yes, you're right. Democrats are willing to help, and I think they've been willing to help when we had packages for comprehensive immigration reform that were defeated by Republicans in Congress. But what we're seeing here, I just find this kind of like, is this bizarre? Is this Halloween still? I mean, the Republicans can't talk about the economy or taxes, apparently, so they start a culture war and demonize these poor people who are stragglers, who are thousands of miles away from the border and don't have any weapons. Oh, we're going to have our military. I mean, Trump is creating a photo opportunity to spur Republican turnout. It is so transparent. And I just got to think, are people that stupid that they are just going to fall for this time after time after time?
Well, I don't think the president was the one that started the caravan. You had a caravan crisis on the border during the Obama administration. He chose to handle it one way. The president, Morgan, is choosing to handle it differently. There was a crisis.
No, I'm saying there's no crisis now.
Okay, I believe there is a crisis. Do you believe there's no crisis, Morgan?
No, I think the caravan is really, it's missing the forest for the trees. When you look at it, the caravan to me is more symbolic of the immigration fight. And the fact that there's many Americans, when you look at the polling on this, why is the president bringing this up? Because when you look at Republican voters, this is at the top of their list, including health care. And so, I think that people in general are frustrated that the Republicans have made no progress on this. I mean, the president campaigned on the wall. He's gotten some money for the wall, but he hasn't been able to get everything that he wants. So for me, the caravan is just a larger representation of frustration at our government for not solving the problem, and that's why he's bringing it up. It's a political winner for him.
Right, and the timing a week before, and a big White House speech and took a few questions, Dana.
Well, the president didn't start the caravan, right? It's not his problem. It's not his fault that the caravan started a month before the election, and as they march closer, even though I know they're thousands of miles away or 1,000 miles away, like he didn't start that. So the visuals, like that was not of his creation. Like he didn't make this up out of whole cloth. This is actually happening, and you can see it every day. There's the picture today of the 4-year-old girl who was so exhausted she just refused to go any farther. Okay, so that's a humanitarian problem. Again, not his fault. And he's trying to figure out a way to do something with it. He told them, go back. But I think that maybe he could go a step further, and I don't think it'll happen now, but he chose the Roosevelt Room for this speech for a reason. He didn't have a bunch of people behind him. He wasn't at a campaign rally. He did it in the Roosevelt Room where you decide policy. So he's saying, like, this is a policy that we have to deal with. I think the speech could have been a little shorter, maybe, but this is what he was saying. I also feel like it is clear that we need an orderly process to figure out how do you separate economic migrants from people who are really in need of asylum. My concern about the pushing asylum seekers, honest to goodness people with integrity that have the need for asylum, to push them to a port of entry is that they might be so desperate that they can't get there. I think that you can tell the difference between somebody who wants to have a better life and the chance to live in America versus somebody who is really desperately fleeing violence from their government.
Could you migrate to a port of entry, or does it have to?
You might be able to, or you might be able to do it. I think a lot of this stuff has actually handled at the embassy level in other places overseas. The last thing I would say is that I feel like we need to do something to solve the problem at its source. Capitalism is the answer. And I think if the president could do something, whatever happens in the midterms, who cares? He's president for the next 2 years. He's running for re-election. What could he do that would be big and different? What about like a Marshall Plan type thing for a very neglected part of the world? Latin America, Central America, South America. Why not do something big and bold to reintroduce capitalism, something like generational that would have a lasting impact that would go along with not just the border security, but try to bring people together and say, if we want to take care of this region and protect our own borders, let's do something that will actually make a difference. And it would be that.
And USAID Administrator Mark Green is doing exactly what Dana is talking about. He's trying to reform USAID, which we've been giving to these Central American countries, which by many definitions meet a failed state status. And it's not just the U.S.-Mexican border. We're seeing the same thing happen in the failed state of Venezuela. Thousands of migrants a day of people fleeing Venezuela going to the Colombian border. So we should be looking at this similarly to how we look at failed states in the Middle East that we've worked on for so many years, looking at the failed states in Central America. I totally agree with you, and I think Mark Green at USAID has a great plan for this.
All right, Greg, what do you think?
I think that a lot of these problems are due to how the media positions these issues. Number one, Juan brings up the fact that no one's talking about the economy. That's because the economy is effing great right now. You're going to have 3.5% to 4% growth, full unemployment, wages are soaring. We just found out today. But the media doesn't like to talk about planes that land safely. They can only report on planes that crash. So good news about the economy, mysteriously, is no news on the other networks. We try to talk about it here, but it's often ignored because it's such good news. Now, let's talk about immigration. Donald Trump had to set the whole issue up at the beginning as a strain on the system. The reason is that the media believes you can only hold two positions. You can either say, we are a nation of immigrants, or it's a nation under siege. But the fact is, human beings hold a portfolio of positions regarding everything like immigration. You can hold a bunch of different positions on crime. Right? You could be, I could be for the death penalty, but think that drugs should be legalized. You can have a portfolio of interests about climate. You can believe that there's climate change, but the policies are wrong. But the activist media bans nuance so that you can, like, if you feel for strong immigration, you want people to come here, but you want to tighten up the loopholes. That doesn't work for the media. That doesn't compute. They need to have you in your own box. And it's so infuriating because I am for strong immigration. I want people to come here. President Trump said he wants people to come here. But in his brain, he knows, like everybody who is immersed in this kind of like law and order criteria that you keep in your brain, that there has to be a system. And that system enables you to have a portfolio of beliefs. Unfortunately, the media cannot handle that because they're stupid.
Well, I just wanted to quickly say that it's not just the media. You look at the ads, and there's a ton of ads right now going into the weekend, and the ads run by the Republicans are not talking about the economy, Greg, because it's not gaining traction with the voters as a persuasive
And that's a problem.
And the second thing I would say is, but look at the ad that is being run, the one that the president retweeted that has like some Mexican guy who shot I think it was a law enforcement officer saying, oh, I'm coming back, I'm going to kill more. I mean, you think, my God, this is Willie Horton all over again, when in fact we know from the numbers that in fact people who are here illegally have a lower rate of violent crime than people who are native born.
Was it wrong to point out that Willie Horton was a furloughed killer?
Yeah,
was that wrong?
No, I think.
I mean, are you on the side of Willie Horton?
No, I'm on the side of not playing to racial antagonisms in the society.
No, that's about
and
crime.
I'm on the side of not
that's about
saying,
crime and
oh,
safety, not
George
race.
Soros.
You're
might
seeing
be
race.
fun.
You're seeing race.
Oh,
Nobody's seeing race here.
Nobody saw race in Willie Horton.
No, that was a furloughed killer.
Are you kidding me?
That was a furloughed killer.
You're
seeing race. I'm not.
Oh my
I'm
God.
seeing a furloughed killer.
We are a colorblind
doing
show, everybody. We're going to keep moving on. President Trump blasting Democrats amid positive poll numbers that could doom the blue wave. That's next.
The thing we have achieved, and it's monumental, is at stake in this election. Democrats want to erase our prosperity and reverse our progress. This election is truly a choice between results and resistance. How about their whole theme? Obstruct, resist. What the hell do you get out of that? This is really an election between greatness and gridlock.
With just 5 days to go until the midterms, the president is on a campaign blitz drilling down on what he says is at stake in Tuesday's crucial elections. This, as new polling shows, the president's push may be having an impact in key Senate battlegrounds. A new Fox News poll shows Trump's approval rating at 50% or higher in 5 important states. Dana, what do you make of that?
I think that we have a real race, and there's a great reason to watch Fox News on election night because...
Nicely done.
Yes, well, of course, I'm going to be here, and I would love everybody to join us. We're all going to be here. This, coming down to the wire, you actually have more people enthusiastic about voting in a midterm than there has been since 1966, which is when Johnson was expanding the war in Vietnam and people were super engaged. So you have people already engaged. You'll have by election day 40% of the vote will already be in because of early voting, and both sides are claiming that they have got some traction there. I do think President Trump has shown himself to be critical in the Senate battlegrounds. If you look at North Dakota and Tennessee, with those two alone, President Trump will assure that Mitch McConnell continues to have a Republican majority. They could still even pick up a couple of more. I think the House is a little bit different. You have forecasters looking at this going, wow, the Democrats are doing pretty well. I don't know how much can happen between now and then except for the president, Obama, Biden, Pence. They're all out there trying to get voters to get out there to the polls. I do think, I'm going to say one thing on policy, on the closing arguments. You have Democrats focusing 100% on health care. President Trump just gave a policy speech from the Roosevelt Room for about an hour on immigration. So those are the two things. What's interesting to me is I feel like the Republicans have a much better story to tell on health care, and they're not engaging on it kind of at all. They're on the defense in almost every state on that issue, and they don't have to be.
Jesse, tell me a little bit about how you understand the president's travel itinerary and where he's deciding to go in these final days.
It looks like it's all Senate-driven, you know, Florida, Missouri, Indiana, and that's where I believe that Republicans are going to pick up seats. The House is right now a little bit more in flux. I think what the president needs to do is make this more about heroes and villains, less about a referendum on himself. I'd make it a contrast election, but I'd personalize it more. Right now, the contrast is more vague in terms of the Democrats and the socialism thing. I would really make it about Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi versus Donald Trump. That's what I would do. I would continue to hit Kavanaugh. The Kavanaugh bounce is faded. That needs to be reignited. I would actually bring back Spygate. That really cast the president as an underdog, him against the world. Also continue to hit the media hard. There was just a poll out that said more people believe the media is dividing the country as opposed to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is viewed more as a uniter by 2-to-1 than is the media. Right now, the economy, as Greg laid out, is so white hot right now. You like to say that they're not running on tax cuts. He's running on a red-hot economy. I just saw him put out a video the other day. The first 30 seconds of the video was how great the economy was. The guy's obsessed with the economy. It's almost like he has Tourette syndrome. Every time you ask him a question about anything, he starts talking about what great economy we have. Immigration, I agree. It's the #1 issue for Republican voters. I wouldn't change a thing on that. I do think that Republicans squandered the deal on health care. They were supposed to repeal and replace. They only half repealed, replaced it with nothing, and they've really let they've ceded a lot of fertile ground to the Democrats on that territory.
So, Morgan, if, as Jesse says, this really is about Donald Trump, is it
everything is about Donald Trump.
Everything's about Donald Trump.
But,
but when you look at the numbers, they're so intriguing because it's like 80+% of Republicans back Donald Trump. But it's almost like this is less calling Republicans home for the midterms than it is calling Donald Trump and sort of tribal support home for the midterms.
That's an interesting point. I mean, I think he really has made it all about him, which I think is the smart strategy. In the state legislatures. We're talking a lot about the House and Senate, which is clearly very important, but Republicans have had the majority of governorships for a long time. They're facing really, really tight races in many of these states, Florida and others, where there are tight Senate races, and state legislatures in several key states may flip as well because of millennial Democrats running.
Greg, are you going to stay up on Tuesday
Those
night?
millennials.
Yeah, I got to work. I'll be here. I'll be here all night.
But Greg, I know
I won't be exiting.
But Greg, you go to bed early.
I know. Well, it's usually when I come home. But, I think it's not just about Donald Trump. It's about an emotional contrast between positivity and anger. It's like when you go and you look at the rallies, everybody's laughing, smiling, having a good time. It's like what do you do outside of a football game?
Tailgate.
It's like a tailgate. And then you contrast it to the resistance. Angry, you look at the Ben and Jerry's carton with the angry look. It's like the difference between a rally, fun, and the Democrats, mob, angry people. Now, I expect the Dems to win more than a few seats in the House, and that's because of the natural cycle of the midterms. When you're out of power, the only responsibility you have is to get back in power. Right. You don't have to run a country. You have no responsibility. All you got to do is be angry for 2 years. So I think that if the Democrats have to be really weak not to regain the House. I would expect that they will.
And speaking of tailgate, we have Terry Bradshaw who's going to be joining us.
Ooh, way to do that.
That was excellent, Jesse. All right, Oprah and other celebrities hitting the campaign trail for Democrats. Is that going to matter? Find out right here on The Five next. That's it.
Celebrities are out in full force for Democrats in the midterms. Oprah hitting the campaign trail to stump for Stacey Abrams in the Georgia gubernatorial race. Watch this.
On November 6th, you all here, you already got it. You got it. So now your job is to go out and let everybody else know how to get it. That you make your voice heard on November 6th. We have this incredible opportunity to make history. We have our inalienable right to vote because the one place where we're all equal, where is it? It's at the polls. And I'm here today because I know you know that, but I just came to remind you of the power.
Barbra Streisand, my favorite, releasing a new anti-Trump album, unfortunately. Here's a clip from one of the songs slamming the president.
How do you sleep when the world is burning? Everyone answers to some.
Like Don't Rain on My Parade better. Anyway, and Hollywood stars, including Téa Leoni and Cher, are out with another PSA encouraging people to vote.
Plagiarist.
If somebody asked you, what do you care about? What would you say?
Losing your health care.
Equal pay.
Equal rights.
Look, if you're worried about your pre-existing conditions.
If you can't take another school shooting.
What matters to you?
Seriously, do they matter to you?
Then vote.
So, Greg, I think this is a really smart strategy, actually, because in 2016, when Jay-Z, Beyonce, Katy Perry all came out for Hillary Clinton, it was such a winner.
It really was. By the way, I'm going to be the first to accuse Barbra Streisand of plagiarism. She just ripped off Midnight Oil. How do you sleep when
your bed is
burning? And it's like that.
I have no clue.
And also the one of her lyrics is, "Your lips move, but your words get in the way." It's one of those things that sounds really clever, but it's complete nonsense. As for the ad featuring the female actresses and celebrities, the ads mentioned very specific issues, none of which had to do with the economy or jobs. And I'm thinking, I imagine, in a parallel universe, what would happen if the Republicans did that for men with male celebrities? And did an ad, let's try, featuring men, and all they do is say, you want a bigger paycheck? You want a raise? You know, you want to be able to pay off your mortgage? It's kind of weird when they put people in boxes. Like, women should also be caring about the economy too, and about jobs. And the thing is, it's the Democrats again only see people in their narrow boxes, and it just kind of it's depressing because women have a far broader sense of the world going on there. They do care about paychecks, and they do care about
because a lot of them are responsible.
Exactly.
Like
but our husbands tell us how to vote. So
there you go.
So, Dana, other than making them feel good about themselves, does this have any effect on the voters?
I don't know. You got to get out the vote somehow. And President Trump is going to all the key battleground states. And if you're Stacey Abrams and you're in a tied race in Georgia, would you rather have Hillary Clinton come or Oprah? No. I mean, obviously, it's no contest. Yeah. And I thought Oprah's speech was good. The Democrats don't have a leader yet until they go through their primary, which we're going to see in the next couple of years. So I think that as many people as they can get out, they should just try it because President Trump is tireless. He's traveling all over the country. He'll do 1 million rallies between now and then. And to have Oprah come, I think is pretty smart.
Well, we had our own celebrity up until this week. We had Kanye, and so that didn't go very far. What do you think? Do you think this is having any effect? Is it going to actually get out the vote? It didn't seem to help in 2016.
No, but I think you've got a different dynamic in a midterm than in a presidential year. And so what historically happens is in midterms, you get low turnout among minorities, young people, and also women. And I think
low turnout among women in midterms?
Yeah, in other words, if you're talking about highly educated, involved, because people get, it's Tuesday in November, the kids are at soccer practice, I got to get home to cook, whatever.
And get home to cook?
Yeah.
Oh, how enlightened of you, Juan.
I'm just telling you. So I
don't cook, for the record.
You don't cook at all?
No, I cook at Christmas. I cook prime rib.
Really?
That's it.
Well, I'll come over. I'll come over. But I think that Oprah is a strong voice if you're trying to communicate with those young people, minorities, and women. I don't think there's any question about it. And when she specifically said the business about voting, I think it has such high impact in that race where you have Brian Kemp, who's the Republican, but also the state's attorney general, and he's being accused of engaging in voter suppression in the state. So it's a key button for Stacey Abrams to push.
Jesse, you look like you have something very
well. I mean, it was funny to hear Oprah talk about, in the 40s and the 50s in Georgia, all the voter suppression. I'd like to remind Oprah that was Democrats who controlled Georgia in the 40s and the 50s. I don't know about you guys, but I have to make a confession. I get excited listening to Oprah. She excites me. I don't know what it is. She's got charisma, the way she speaks. If she was a Republican, I would, and she was running against Trump in the primary, I'd have a tough decision to make. She's got a lot of energy. She's really convincing people. There's something about her that's just magnetic, and this is really going to make Stacey, I think, the next governor of the state of Georgia.
Wow.
And I believe Oprah probably feels a little guilty because she sat on the sidelines during 2016, never really helped Hillary Clinton too much, and now she's coming in.
Maybe she didn't want to.
Well, yeah. And you know what she said? She goes, I only back candidates that I feel inspired by and that are authentic. And notice who she didn't campaign for is Hillary Clinton.
And she didn't endorse Hillary Clinton in 2008 either. She endorsed Obama.
That's right.
Right. By the way, Jesse, Vice President Pence was down in Georgia, and he said, hey, all these celebrities, this is Georgia, not Hollywood. So, I mean,
that's a good message.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe I'm razzle-dazzled by that.
Coming up, NFL legend Terry Bradshaw's coming into the studio. But first, Twitter considering a big change that will make the PC crowd so very happy.
Big news for people using or being used by Twitter. The time-sucking tool may be dumping the like button. CAO believes that since people want more likes on their comments, they might boost the attention-grabbing qualities of their tweets. And that's bad. Sounds like ratings. But to me, that's like removing seatbelts on the Hindenburg. It's not about the accessories. It's about the thing itself. Does Twitter have any purpose at all other than attention seeking? No one ever tweets, "Get out, your house is on fire." No, Twitter is the world's bathroom wall, allowing the worst part of you to shine. No one is better on Twitter than they are in real life. They're avatars without souls. Because without face-to-face dialogue, cues are missed and cowardice rules. Is that person being sarcastic or mean? And when reading the tweet, do you actually care? It's more fun to condemn than comprehend. Meanwhile, the same biases exist there as anywhere else. The CEO still protects Farrakhan while banning other noxious voices and calling it brave because if you're spineless, moral posturing is all you have left. The first mistake we ever made with Twitter is thinking that it mattered. But the worst part of it, us, and our willingness to be used. Without content provided by you or me, the platform wouldn't exist. And Jack Dorsey wouldn't be worth $5 billion. He's a guy getting rich off dogfights, and we are the mutts. I feel like I'm used every day that I'm on Twitter, Jesse.
Yeah, I know when you're having fun on Twitter, it's like 8 or 9. You start getting loose and you start saying things you shouldn't say. I like Greg's Twitter feed around between 8 and 9 and 10. That's the best, Greg. I don't participate in Twitter. I walk a fine line as it is on television.
Yes.
I think typing things down so it stays in eternity is too risky for me.
It is.
So I like to just tweet and retweet things I say on the air. And I need the like button. I need to feel liked. I want to know what I say and how people are reacting to it. And the more likes I get, the better I feel about myself. I need that reassurance.
At least you admit that, though.
Yeah.
He admits
Was that too honest?
Juan, you just stay away from it.
Yeah, Juan, don't go on Twitter. I'd like to, as your friend, please don't go.
Yeah.
Well, it has commercial value because it can publicize projects and appearances and the like.
I don't think it sells anything. Like, do you ever know? I don't think it sells books.
No.
No, I don't
I think it can alert people to a segment coming up or something like that, but sales, no, probably.
But you know what? It's a lot of ego. People think that you want to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
But I really agree with what you said in the monologue because, to my mind, there is such a lack of responsibility on the part of these social media platforms.
Right.
And they don't want to deal with the fact that more than half of Americans say they've been harassed in social media, demeaned, put down, trolled. I can tell you stories. And so I just think if they were responsible, instead of always saying, oh, you know, we want to facilitate good conversation, but then they don't protect against people who are vicious and vile and sordid in terms of what they say. It's damaging to our country and to our society.
Or could you argue, Morgan, that it provides a release so people aren't vile on the street, like the trolls end up letting it out online, and therefore it reduces incidents of violence? Could that be a possibility?
Maybe, but I actually think like 8 to 10 years ago, when Twitter was younger, there was actually amazing things happening on Twitter. Remember in the 2009 Iranian Green Revolution that almost overthrew that administration?
True.
That started on Twitter. I was living in the Middle East in 2011 during the Arab Spring. A lot of that seeing Mubarak and those regimes fall, the Arab Spring happened because of Twitter. It has devolved since then, but I remember I was at the Middle East at the beginning of the Obama administration, and we were amazed at how social media was bringing down, 30-year autocrat regimes. So perhaps there's a way to get it back to where it's taking down people we don't like.
That's a fair point. It's an end around over tyrants. And
Well, it's like Trump's end around over the media.
Yes.
Good point.
Dana, how many Twitter followers do you have now? 2 million?
A lot.
2.5 million?
That's a lot. It's a lot.
And you know why you do it? You know why you get it? Because you're exploiting your dog. The dog, Jasper has no idea he's on Twitter.
No, but he is definitely not as used as
There
you
should be
are.
dog lawyers.
You know the biggest problem with Twitter and the like button?
What?
When they changed it from a star to a heart.
Yes.
It just changed everything.
Why?
Because you don't want to love something. You like star it like, oh, that's good. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's like hearting it is gross. Like they should have never done that.
You know why? Because
Also,
you also start things that you want to remember to go back to.
yeah, absolutely. That's true. And also, have you ever had complaints from people if you like their tweet and they'll call, could you please retweet it? Like have some guts and retweet it. I wonder if all of us should abstain for 1 week from Twitter.
Yeah, we say that, but we never
The week of
do
Thanksgiving. I did it when I went to Spain and it was great.
Way to drop your vacation. Oh, when I was in Spain, I didn't do any tweeting. When I was in the Middle East, yeah. Well, when I was in Milpitas, California. All right, up next, NFL Hall of Famer Terry Bradshaw joins us here on The Five to talk politics. No, just kidding, just kidding. Thursday Night Football. That's what we're going to talk about. A lot more of that.
Thursday after the 5, we run out of our studio to make way for Thursday Night Football on Fox Sports. The pregame show broadcasts live from right here at our Fox News headquarters in our studio. We're happy to share our space with our football friends, and we're even happier to have Thursday Night Football co-host and NFL legend Terry Bradshaw here with us.
Yeah, they say that about me sometimes, Terry.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be
You know
here.
what? You are a legend. I forgot how many Super Bowls you won.
So did he.
Don't touch me, Joe.
Sorry about that.
Hey, no, you know what? Because obviously everybody's into this, who's the best, who's the best, who's the best, and I get that. And so everybody says Tom Brady. I'm nowhere in that mix, which is fine, but I also have to remind them, TB, Tom Brady, 12. I am the original TB 12.
Oh, what about Roethlisberger? I mean, he's a Steeler.
He's up there.
He's doing well. You think you're
great.
better than he was?
No, he's much stronger,
Okay.
bigger, much bigger, faster, more, not faster, but more accurate. Yeah, for sure.
All right.
What are you doing? You leaving?
I'm just trying to start a little trouble.
Absolutely. No, you're not stirring trouble. No, I like him a lot.
Can you
like
punch him,
a lot.
Terry, can you punch him in the face?
No, he means Juan.
No, actually, Juan's my buddy. Every time Juan comes off this show, I say, Bub, how you doing today? Are you okay?
Remember, listen to this. I was in Pittsburgh the other day.
Yeah.
I'm in the airport, and there's Franco Harris making the immaculate.
Right.
And of course, you threw that ball.
Right.
And I was
did.
thinking to myself, I want my man Terry right here as a statue. And since we're talking Pittsburgh, you know they went through a rough time.
Exactly.
And I was so pleased to see that the Steelers were involved with the funerals.
Yeah, you know, Mike Tomlin, head coach of the Steelers, his house is only 800 yards away. And so it was, it's the fitting thing to do. It's not even something, it's not a political thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And the Steelers family should be commended for that.
Well, we have a big game tonight. We have the San Francisco 49ers and the Oakland Raiders. Oakland got rid of a lot of players.
Listen, I appreciate you plugging it, but it's really not that big.
Hey, I don't know. You came on the plug, and now you're saying it's not a big game?
No. I take all that back.
It's a huge game.
Matter of fact,
I think you might watch Fox News during the game, right?
It might be the biggest game of the year. Now that I think about it.
And you watch me on Tucker Craig.
I grew up watching you, and I always felt that there were more interesting football players in the 70s than there are now. You had, like, scary people. Jack Lambert, Conrad Dobler. Do you remember him? Matuzak. It seems like that's a bygone era. What happened to the scary players?
Well, I think basically our business community doesn't really want scary players. Players are looking outside of football when they retire.
They all look like models.
We had a guy named Arrowhead Holmes. That Arrow. Mean Joe Green, by the way, who watches this show religiously, and he was called Mean Joe Green. Jack Lambert took his teeth out and was a very scary guy.
These were amazing players.
You're right. We had Ernie Holmes shot a helicopter down. So, I mean, it was just a good way of getting tension off. You know?
But
it's changed.
Everybody's a male model. Tom Brady's too good looking. Yeah. You as a quarterback, that was normal.
Whoa.
I think you're exceedingly handsome.
I think you need to punch him.
I'm using Dana as a blocker.
It's not going to work out very well.
I do. I'm not Sporty Spice. You guys are all kind of like speaking Mandarin to me at the moment. I'll be honest. But my dad wants me to ask you about the new roughing the passer rule. He thinks it's stupid.
Well, what they're trying to do, obviously, the survey says that if you keep your quarterbacks alive and healthy and standing up properly, the TV ratings grow, and if TV ratings grow, then the TV people pay more money, and the NFL gets wealthier, and so on and so forth. That actually was a part of the AFL. AFL captured America's imagination by throwing the football 50 times a game, so that forced a merger in '69. So it's all about throwing the football, and it's all about quarterbacks. And that's why you're seeing so many 5,000-yard passers, 50 touchdown guys. And what they found out is that they were trying to protect the quarterback completely. The rule is stupid. I do agree with that. Because you cannot be fighting through a blocker and then hit the quarterback and then at the very last minute turn your hands loose. You fall through. On a matter of fact, we had a play last week where a defensive lineman got through, ran around, grabbed the quarterback, and turned him loose because he was afraid of the rules.
It's catch and release.
You can't put your
Catch and release.
Careful. I had to work into politics.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
So you went from being a player to talking about players and talking about the game. What was it? What did you find hard about that transition, and what did you love about it?
Well, here's the thing, Dana. I think one of the things, that camera that I'm looking at doesn't lie. I mean, it captures who you really are.
Yeah.
And if you're lying, if she asked me, what do you think about this player? And you were saying Roethlisberger, and I could have gone into this bit, but I gave an honest answer, so I don't have to worry about it. When you lie and when you're trying to cover something up, that camera catches you. And I think you have to learn to be totally honest. And when you're honest, you'll either get a yes or a no, but it'll be definitive yes or no. If you fool and try to lie, it doesn't work. You have to be honest with your viewers. When I'm asked a question on the Fox show on Sunday morning, Fox NFL Sunday, I always give an honest answer.
All right,
and I do get
theory.
in trouble. I do get in trouble, but you have to be honest.
Who's your favorite host on the Five? Go. Camera doesn't lie. Go.
It's easy, Stana.
Oh, come on.
Juan, you're second.
Oh, what the heck?
Greg, you're third.
Oh, I knew this was going to happen.
And, Butch, you're fourth.
All right. You know what? Is Howie there? Can we get Howie out here? Get Howie out here. Howie.
Terry, you're welcome back anytime.
I'll come back next week.
All right, see about that.
Terry Bradshaw, thank you. We'll see you on the Thursday Night
Big game
Football
tonight, right?
pregame show.
Big game of the year.
One more thing is up next. Thursday after the 5, we run out of our studio to make way for Thursday Night Football on Fox Sports. The pregame show broadcasts live from right here at our Fox News headquarters in our studio. We're happy to share our space with our football friends, and we're even happier to have Thursday Night Football co-host and NFL legend Terry Bradshaw here with us.
Yeah, they say that about me sometimes, Terry.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
You know what? You are a legend. I forgot how many Super Bowls you won.
So did he.
Don't touch me, John.
Sorry about that.
Hey, no, you know what? Because obviously everybody's into this, who's the best, who's the best, who's the best, and I get that. And so everybody says Tom Brady. I'm nowhere in that mix, which is fine, but I also have to remind them, TB, Tom Brady, 12. I am the original TB 12.
Oh, what about Roethlisberger? I mean, he's a Steeler.
He's up there.
He's doing well. You think you're better than he was?
No, he's much stronger,
Okay.
bigger, much bigger, faster, not faster, but more accurate. Yeah, for sure.
All right.
What are you doing? You leaving?
I'm just trying to start a little trouble.
Absolutely. No, you're not stirring trouble. No, I like him a lot.
Can you punch him, Terry? Terry, can you punch him in the face?
No, he means Juan.
Actually, Juan's my buddy. Every time Juan comes off this show, I say, Bub, how you doing today? Are you okay?
Remember listen to this. I was in Pittsburgh the other day.
Yeah.
I'm in the airport, and there's Franco Harris making the immaculate.
Right.
And of course, you threw that ball.
Right.
And I was thinking to myself, I want my man Terry right here as a statue. And since we're talking Pittsburgh, you know they went through a rough time.
Exactly.
And I was so pleased to see that the Steelers were involved with the funerals.
Yeah. Well, you know, Mike Tomlin, head coach of the Steelers, his house is only 800 yards away. And so it was, it's the fitting thing to do. It's not even something, it's not a political thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And the Steelers family should be commended for that.
Well, we have a big game tonight. We have the San Francisco 49ers and the Oakland Raiders. Oakland got rid of a lot of players.
Listen, I appreciate you plugging it, but it's really not that big.
Hey, I don't know. You came on the plug, and now you're saying it's not a big game?
No. I take all that back.
It's a huge game.
Matter of fact,
I think you might watch Fox News during the game, right?
It might be the biggest game of the year. That's what I think about it.
And you watched me on Tucker Craig.
I grew up watching you, and I always felt that there were more interesting football players in the 70s than there are now. You had, like, scary people. Jack Lambert, Conrad Dobler. Do you remember him? Matuzak. It seems like that's a bygone era. What happened to the scary players?
Well, I think basically our business community doesn't really want scary players. Players are looking outside of football when they retire.
They all look like models.
We had a guy named Arrowhead Homes.
Yeah.
That Arrow. And Mean Joe Green, by the way, who watches the show religiously. And he was called Mean Joe Green. Jack Lambert took his teeth out and was a very scary guy.
These were amazing players.
You're right. We had Ernie Holmes shot a helicopter down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just a good way of getting tension off. You know?
Yeah.
But it has changed.
Everybody's a male model. Tom Brady's too good looking. Yeah. You as a quarterback, that was normal.
Whoa.
I think you're exceedingly handsome.
I think you need to punch him.
Yeah.
I'm using Dana as a blocker.
It's
not going to work out very well.
I do. I'm not Sporty Spice. You guys are all kind of like speaking Mandarin to me at the moment. I'll be honest. But my dad wants me to ask you about the new roughing the passer rule. He thinks it's stupid.
Well, what they're trying to do, obviously, the survey says that if you keep your quarterbacks alive and healthy and standing up properly, the TV ratings grow. And if TV ratings grow, then the TV people pay more money and the NFL gets wealthier and so on and so forth. That actually was a part of the AFL. AFL captured America's imagination by throwing the football 50 times a game, so that forced a merger in '69. So it's all about throwing the football and it's all about quarterbacks. And that's why you're seeing so many 5,000-yard passers, 50 touchdown guys. And what they found out is that they were trying to protect the quarterback completely. The rule is stupid. I do agree with that. Because you cannot be fighting through a blocker and then hit the quarterback and then at the very last minute turn your hands loose. You fall through. On a matter of fact, we had a play last week where a defensive lineman got through, ran around, grabbed the quarterback, and turned him loose because he was afraid of the rule.
It's catch and release.
You can't put your
catch and release.
Now, you gotta bring him down.
Careful.
I had to work into politics.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
So you went from being a player to talking about players and talking about the game. What was it? What did you find hard about that transition, and what did you love about it?
Well, here's the thing, Dana. I think one of the things, that camera that I'm looking at doesn't lie. I mean, it captures who you really are.
Yeah.
And if you're lying, if she asked me, what do you think about this player? And you were saying Roethlisberger, and I could have gone into this bit, but I gave an honest answer, so I don't have to worry about it. When you lie and when you're trying to cover something up, that camera catches you. And I think you have to learn to be totally honest. And when you're honest, you'll either get a yes or a no, but it'll be definitive yes or no. If you fool and try to lie, it doesn't work. You have to be honest with your viewers. When I'm asked a question on the Fox show on Sunday morning, Fox NFL Sunday, I always give an honest answer.
All right,
I do get in trouble. I do get in trouble, but you have to be honest.
Who's your favorite host on the Five? Go. Camera doesn't lie. Go.
It's easy, Stana.
Oh, come on.
Juan, you're second.
Oh, what the heck?
Greg, you're third.
Oh, I knew this was going to happen.
And, Butch, you're fourth.
All right. You know what? Is Howie there? Can we get Howie out here? Get Howie out here. Howie.
Terry, you're welcome back anytime.
I'll come back next week.
We'll see about that.
Terry Bradshaw, thank you. We'll see you on the Thursday Night
Big game
Football
tonight, right?
pregame show.
Big game of the year.
One more thing is up next.